Hello and welcome to the Wake Up Call podcast. I'm Daniel Laguros.
And I'm Adam Camac.
In this episode, we're going to briefly describe what the show is, who we are, our journey, and kind of what you can expect out of the show. So, the main goal of this show is just to educate people on a lot of interesting topics by a lot of interesting people. We have a lot of really cool guests that we have on the show, and we talk about all sorts of different stuff from history to war to current events to economics. So if any of that sort of stuff interests you, we have on a variety of guests to speak about that stuff 5 days a week.
Yeah, and don't feel intimidated by anything. We're going to try to do this in a fashion where we're starting off very basic and building from there. And within each topic, we really want to establish the fundamentals, have our guests go from square one to a further more advanced levels and on to more interesting topics. But we really want to build up from the ground level. And as Daniel said, we're going to be going through all sorts of topics. Typically, for basically the entirety of the show, Monday is going to be looking at different countries, ethnic groups, religious groups, political groups, regions around the world, and giving a history of those various groups or countries, or giving a sense of what's happening right now as it pertains to that topic. And then Tuesday, at the start, we're going to be talking about U.S. military operations around the world, war, and some related topics. And then Wednesday, we're going to be talking about, at the start, some very important political issues and going through those, and then some issues that are very important but maybe aren't in the news as much. So we'll be talking about healthcare and immigration, education, things like that, but we'll also be talking about intellectual property, and we'll be talking about involuntary commitment. So a wide variety of topics there. Thursday, we're going to try to pick out one very important current event topic that's in the news and have a guest talk about that. And then Friday, at least at the start, we're going to be focusing on economic topics related to money, banking, and business cycles. So that's sort of what to expect as far as what's going to happen each day of the week with our different episodes. So here's Daniel to tell you a little bit about himself and his journey.
So basically, my journey into podcasting is relatively brief. A little bit more about myself. My name's Daniel Laguros. I'm from the city of Houston, Texas. My educational background is in finance from Texas A&M. And really, Adam and I have always loved talking to each other about all sorts of different subjects. And one day we finally decided, hey, why don't we get some people on and actually learn some of the stuff from the experts? And kind of the show morphed into what it is now. And we're extremely excited to have all sorts of really educated people on to talk to y'all. And I think y'all will enjoy it too.
Right, and as Daniel said, we're very excited. And as I said at the top, I'm Adam Camac. I'm also from Houston, like Daniel. We've known each other a long time, and we've lived in the same area for much of our lives. So I've always taken an interest in topics related to politics, related to geography, related to history, related to economics, and this show is exploring those interests and also helping to lay the groundwork, both for myself and for Daniel, to the where there are gaps in it, and also helping provide our listeners, you the listeners, with that background. So my journey into starting a podcast has a lot to do with being interested in those topics. My political journey began with me as more or less being on the left, and then slowly moving towards libertarianism and becoming more and more committed to libertarianism as time went on and as I learned more and read and listened to more. So we will not be running from libertarianism on this show. We'll be having on a lot of libertarian guests, but we'll be having on a lot of guests that are not libertarians as well. People from the left, people from the right, people from across the political spectrum with relevant and interesting things to say about these topics.
And my political background is somewhat similar, except I started on the right, and then I kind of slowly moved towards libertarianism. And a lot of times something that I think might be a little bit strange to listeners who are completely new to any sort of podcast on politics or history. You might hear some of the guests say things that are a bit strange, like you might hear in a podcast about war, you might also hear about devaluation of the dollar and the Fed. You might be like, well, that doesn't mean anything to me. I don't even know what that means. Don't worry. There's a show about almost every topic. We just have to get to them. So if there's something that you don't know or you're confused about, don't be intimidated by any of the strange things that our guests say.
Right. Now, just to tell you a little bit more about myself, I went to the University of Texas at Austin. I graduated in 3 years with a degree in history and a minor in computer science. And to tell you about some of my interests aside from podcast-related topics, and because I'll probably be referencing these sorts of things from time to time, and we may do some shows on some of these topics, but I'm a big sports fan. I love watching tennis and basketball and college basketball and college football and baseball. I'm really into that. There are also a handful of TV shows I obsess over. Most of them have been off the air for years, but I'm a big fan of Seinfeld, so I might make Seinfeld references. I'm a big fan of The Wonder Years. I'm a big fan of Doogie Howser, MD. I'm a big fan of The Big Bang Theory, which is still on the air, unlike those other three. So you'll probably hear me mention those from time to time. You may hear me talk about my musical interests, which are, I guess, pretty unusual for a millennial, but I'm a fan of pop and rock and country music from the 50s and 60s and 70s primarily. So you'll probably hear me reference that. You may hear me reference some movies from time to time, but I want you to feel like we're real people and we're not just sitting here asking questions.
Yeah, you want to talk about strange musical interests. I'm in a barbershop quartet, so that's about as unusual as it can get. So, yeah, we definitely want to make sure that we're somewhat personable, and you all know that we're just completely regular people. And if you have any questions or if you have any comments about the show, go ahead and put them on the show website, wakeupcallpodcast.com. We'll have comment sections. We'll have places for people to email us, and really anything or everything. Just let us know, good or bad.
Yeah, so please leave comments on the website, which of course is wakeupcallpodcast.com. We'll also have show notes pages for each episode with links to various resources and biographical information on our guests. And there will be comment sections on those pages. We highly encourage that you leave comments there. Our email address is contact@wakeupcallpodcast.com. Feel free to email at any time with a comment, with a question, a suggestion, topic idea, guest idea. If you want to be interviewed on the show, any of those sorts of things, contact@wakeupcallpodcast.com is going to be the way to contact us about that. We will not have a Facebook group or a Twitter account initially, but we may add those down the road. So at some point you may see an expanded social media presence from us. And a really important way to stay up to date is going to be our email list. So there will be opt-in forms, places to sign up for that list, subscribe to that list on wakeupcallpodcast.com. We're not going to spam you for the most part, unless there's a major announcement regarding a change in format or an unusual episode or major show changes. Other than that, we're just going to be sending one email a week, letting you know what guests we spoke with the previous week and what guests we will be speaking with that upcoming week. But that is going to be a very important way to stay up to date with the show. We also encourage you to subscribe to the show on iTunes and also rate and review the show on iTunes. That's going to be very important for helping grow this show and helping raise its profile. And we also will provide the opportunity for you to subscribe on Stitcher. So if you prefer Stitcher to iTunes, then you can go ahead and subscribe there.
Yep, we encourage everyone to subscribe on any platform that you'd like, and you can go to our website at any time. There's links to every single podcast there on the website. And also we're going to have, in addition to having the show there, we have the show notes page. And there you're going to find links to all sorts of articles from the respective guests. You're going to find links to things outside of the guest's domain but are pertaining to the subject. So there's just going to be a ton of really cool stuff all on those show notes pages. So we highly encourage y'all to go there too.
So, and I also just want to provide a little information about how each show will work before we wrap up. So each show is going to be about 30 minutes long. We'll probably be going a little bit over most of the time, but somewhere around that 35 minute-ish mark for the most part, maybe approaching 40 minutes from time to time, but we're really going to try to keep it down to about 30 minutes, and we'll introduce the guest, and then we're just going to go back and forth, more or less, asking questions of the guest before we wrap up. So we'll try to make these shows not be particularly intimidating and not be ridiculously long, but we also want to make them long enough that we can thoroughly cover the topic we're discussing. And from time to time, we may have a 2 or even 3 or more part series on various topics. So, just be aware of that. If it seems like we're not thoroughly covering a topic in one particular episode, that may be because we're covering it in additional episodes in the following weeks as well.
Okay. Well, if there's anything else that y'all want to know about us, about the show, or if you have any suggestions, as we were saying, that email list, the comment section, our contact email at contact.wakeupcallpodcast.com. Absolutely. Send us anything you want, and we'll be sure to read it.
Yeah, and once again, welcome to the show, and thank you very much for listening. We hope you enjoy the show in the days, weeks, and months ahead.